Доброго дня.
Good afternoon, dear audience, participants of this important event. Today, on the backdrop of political battles that are ongoing in Ukraine and in the United States, and today we're going to mention this country, I'm really glad that there is such an initiative, and you will hear about it. Ukraine Crisis Media Center shares this approach to look not only at current situation, domestic and geopolitical one, but also to pay attention to the future, to the vision, to pay attention to something more than today. And this opportunity comes often, but often we miss it. I'm really glad, as a head of the board of Ucmc and as a diplomat and ambassador of Ukraine to US in 2015-2019, that today's event is connected with many different topics. And the reason is in the title of this briefing. It is connected with the presentation of the poem during the inauguration of President of US Joe Biden. This is the poetry of Amanda Gorman. The place is also important, the way it was said is also of importance, and what we felt is also important. We see that this was really important for the whole world, the inauguration of the President of the United States. It is an important event in the world. Moreover, we have such scenarios and manifestations in these scenarios. They are the soul of the people, and this ceremony is not an exclusion. During the last ceremony, we were proud of wonderful performance of Ukrainian-born woman, and during this inauguration, we were really inspired by the poem presented by Amanda, and all these scenarios and approaches should be analyzed with people, with specialists in the field that contributed really a lot as directors, as translators, and those who organize such event. And as the head of the board of Ucmc, I would like to greet Mr. Castelli, who became the initiator, and he inspired this idea that was somewhat on the surface, but you should be able to capture it. And he has a lot of experience, tens of years of experience in translation, interpreting new projects that are of interest to Ukraine and the world. He's really experienced, and I'm really glad that you pay attention to this and that you addressed to us, the Ukraine Crisis Media Center, in order that we be able to contribute. Alexey Ivanovich Kongluzhny, I would like to say that, first of all, I would like to stress your novelty as the director. I remember the start of Suziria, the first performances, and Kiev audience and others, they attended, and he is the people's artist of Ukraine. He knows how to make performances, more than 30 different performances that Alexei made during these years, and I'm really glad that you are the part of this project. I hope that your professionalism and knowledge will help the jury to identify the winners. The first thing is to analyze the translations, to identify them, and it's rather difficult because this is American history that influenced the world. And here it is important to find a person who will be good translator. He should know more than poetry, Ukrainian and American one. So I really greet you that Mr. Malkovich, he connects all these things. I didn't read the anthology of young American poets, but I believe that this contribution will help us to make proper conclusions during the contest. And I would like to speak as a diplomat. The relationship between the countries, they are not only at the level of the presidents and the ministries of foreign affairs, they are also at the level of peoples. And here we should establish trust that may help the development of diplomatic relations, bilateral relations, or this may prevent a relationship. That's why it is evident to everyone that the successful work of Ukraine in the US is impossible without understanding of the people, understanding what is going on there, and the understanding of the future, our joint future. And I'm really glad that such initiatives of counteraction to Russian aggression, and US helps us in this a lot, and the initiatives that unite young people, and this is the initiative like this, they are really important. And also what is said about the future, vision, overcoming obstacles, that this is the hill we are climbing. There are different translations of this poem, of this verse, and it really inspires us, and it should inspire Ukrainians. They should get united, they should look to the future. And in this way, I see the story, the future of this project. Thank you very much once again that you are together. And I would like to give the floor to a person who knows the essence of this project. Vadim Castelli, you are given the floor. Thank you, Valery. The essence of the project is really simple. The contest was announced for the best Ukrainian translation of the inauguration a poem of Amanda Gorman. The title is The Hill We Climb. There are different types, variants of translation of this title. Why we decided this verse is really worth to be on this nationwide contest for translators, for poets, all those who believe they can do it. This is for several reasons. First, there is an interesting history, interesting backstory. Inauguration in US is not simply the ceremony. Millions follow. This is a ceremony. It is prepared. It is directed. Singers performed there, and 4 American presidents decided that not just singers should participate, but the word should be given to the poets. And this was done by Kennedy, Clinton, and Barack Obama. Now Biden decided to invite a poet as well. So this is not only about to show their level of education and intelligence, but to reinforce the force of the word. 4 years ago, during the previous inauguration, no one provided the verses. All the attention was on the president. And the author of this year, Amanda Gorman, she said that during these previous years, during these 4 years, the word was turned into the word of hatred when it was used in order to show the place to those who oppose. And she wanted by her verse to bring up the force of the word and the force of pure poetry. So this was an interesting backstory. And the poet is really of interest. She is 22. She is from Los Angeles. She got for the first time at 16. She was announced the youth poet laureate only in Los Angeles, and in 2 years at the nationwide level, and now she has the status of the national poet laureate. There are only 5 poets like this who are still alive in US, also in other countries, and this is a high status. It provides some privileges, but she got it in 22. And also, backstory was interesting, how this verse appeared, and we tried to follow what was going on in the framework of preparation to inauguration. We knew that Amanda Gorman, that the wife of the president, Jill Biden, she heard her when she presented her verses in the Capitol Library, and she heard her, and she proposed to the organization committee to invite her to inauguration. No conditions were set. They didn't say what to write, or whether it should be vers libre or other type of poetry. She only knew the topic of speech will be the unification of the country. And she decided that this is an honorable topic and she should write something on this. And she said that she wrote 1 line a day, and it was difficult for her to write. She even came to despair, and then on the 6th of January, the crowds tried to seize the Capitol building, trying to break the basics of democracy and the division of power between different powers and within different branches. And she said that she was really impressed by this event, and she wrote this verse in 1 day. So in Ukraine we have big wonderful school of translators of poetry, starting from Ivan Franko up to Lukash and Mitra Pavlichka and many others who dealt with this and continue to do this. And we decided that this poem of Amanda Gorman is a good example to incentivize Ukrainian poets and those people who want to participate to use this precedent to also identify their feelings with the situation, with what is in the poem of Amanda Gorman. And this is all for the start. Thank you very much. Later on, maybe you will tell us about the conditions of the contest and how it will happen. And before this, I would like to ask you about we all heard this speech, this presentation. The inauguration of the president is an important location. This place, I visited this place during the previous inauguration. I was inspired, as American press say, she took all attention, and she had more applause than even than the president. Not many people were present, and all the applause were heard. So, should we focus our attention on how she did it, how it was going on, and how it may be reflected in Ukrainian version? Can we transpose this powerful place through verses, through poem? You, as a professional, do you believe it should be taken into account by those who will participate in the contest? I believe you are absolutely right, and you have such not of direct. I'm glad that our ambassadors have this. And there should be proper dialogue between the cultures, between people, and this contest is for this. And there is no big emotional reaction to this. I haven't watched this inauguration. I only saw the reporting, and Vadim Castelli called me and he said, "Have you seen this?" And I said, "Yes, I have seen this." And I was really glad that the director built such a family atmosphere of reserved ceremony that is really in the framework of the situation that was done in America. And atmosphere is really important in any event. And then Vadim told me about the presentation of the poem, and it was, I would say, she is a poetess, right? A poet or poetess, we may call her. And the sphere of feelings, this is the sphere of absolute essences. And first, everyone was just watching it. Then they became the participants, and then she turned them all, and those who not just were listening, they became a part of it. They become co-creators, and that is what we want in art, that the audience should become co-creator of the event that is ongoing. And I would like to say, this is not, it's not easy for me to understand the essence of her words in English, but I saw these movements, this reaction of her body, and this image of this poetry, of this poem. This is life that we see as a travel in different directions, but it is ongoing at the same time. Life travel in different directions simultaneously, and then the person goes and meets some obstacles. For example, a hill. You can climb the hill, you can jump there, you can overcome it. And this word, this verb, it may identify a lot in this. It may be very important in this poem. So this contest, it brings a lot of people together. I have read several translations, and I would like to say that in my career as a director, I had many events. I directed Independence Day on the Independence Square and the anthem ceremony that was approved in the Верховна Рада. So this was like bringing capabilities to get together, to help them to listen, to hear each other. In this sense, poetry really brings the word up. In this sense, poetry remains, as Oscar Wilde said, the pure and simple truth is rarely pure and never simple. So, there was a genre that was popular, some sort of declamation of choirs. So, when there are some soloists, a choir, a screen with some video that provide some other dimension. And also, I would like to add one more thing. This is about the style of such event. This event was really aristocratic, stylish, and at the same time not glamorous. And the directors that will create such events, we do not have such a big tradition of inaugurations. We had some tradition. Now there is a period of search, and So the exemplary case, well balanced, that is perceived by different people, and understanding is created, unification, the feeling of a united family. It is really important, and she managed to do this. I would like to ask you, you've said, and I have my own impression, and I spoke with Americans I asked them about their impression, and my children, they heard even rap between the lines of this poem. And some people say that this is traditional style of a prayer. It's, like you've said, this is like a choir. Here is everything. And a difficult question for a simple answer from the director. About Ukrainian translation, I hope it will be bright. Where should we proclaim this in Ukrainian? Where can we proclaim this poem in Ukraine? You know, the life is really clever, and everything that is in essence it should happen. So I believe that the main in the story is that this is not the question of America. In the world, there is spiritual chaos, and in this verse, there is a big gallery of senses, of meanings. And this will provoke, this was planted, and this will germinate with some. This poem, this event, this presentation, and the diplomat and translators that are well known, they joined to this word, to this vibration that it provokes in society. I believe this will bear fruit. And I would say about chorus declamation, and Virsky ensemble may say, we will dance this, and maybe this will be done in ballet, so everyone may create something new based on this. And to the main part, let's speak about the essence of this poem. I would like to say that the style, maybe it is well known to people who deal with poetry, but for me, it was really interesting and extraordinary. This is not the verse with the rhymes or white verse. This is unification of different things, and I believe that this poem is very difficult to translate, to transfer all those feelings. And you as a specialist, maybe for you it will be important to assess those translations during the contest. Is this a difficult task to translate such a verse, such a poem in Ukrainian? Or do you believe this is realistic? And what are the obstacles for translation, and what it will give to Ukrainian translation and poetry? Thank you for giving me the floor. Look, this poem is not only difficult to translate in Ukraine. For Ukraine, for the country, with our history, with all our society, but our civil society, on those translators who are conscious citizens who participated in historic events in our country. The matter is, in America, as I know, I participated in Fulbright program in 2015, and we created an anthology, and there are 35 American poets, the best poets that were selected. And the matter is, civil society lyrics was not really popular at that time. It was not really promoted. They wrote about current affairs, they wrote about love, as everyone does, and there was no civil society lyrics. In Ukraine we have more of this, and I believe that for Ukrainian translators it is easier because if you take into account recent history and trends in the American poetry, Ukrainian translators may orient better. And there is people want to climb this hill in Ukraine. For example, Americans, maybe they jumped over something and now they have some small hill, and Ukrainians, they go up and up the big hill and they need to overcome. I have read several translations that we got, and in one of translations they rethink this verse and make it Ukrainian style. I do not remember how it was said. It was something like the power spits on people, they care only about the power. There were no such words in the original verse. This is Ukrainian context, and it is interesting to see that there is also some internal rhymes, and your children mentioned this rap in this verse. It is interesting to see how Ukrainian mentality is rethinking this verse. And I would like to ask you about the contest. And there are some criteria in the contest. We understand that there are no limitations. We may go up to the dance even from this poetry. But nevertheless, do you have some criteria concerning translations? Do you have them? Because there is such a way of checking translation. For example, official translation in diplomacy, you need to do it in original language, and if you translate it to Ukrainian, and this is done in order to report to Kiev, then you should translate all these bureaucratic texts, and this is a double translation, and it is losing the sense. And what should be transferred during the translation? The essence, the spirit, the words. I believe there are several aspects in this. First, the civil lyric in Ukraine as such, it is close to pathos. And there is a risk that this live proving verse and this young girl, she didn't provide this pathos. She is not trying to get into the history, and it is. I believe there is a risk that in Ukraine this verse will be translated and it with pathos. There should not be exaggeration, some metaphors, for example, that are not appropriate in this text. And also one more aspect. Here it is important to understand the words. If you look them up in the dictionary, they are legal terms. It was so some terms are used that are not appropriate to the lyrics, and there was one translation that partly sounded like a legal document than as a verse, and the verse is political, and there are such terms, you cannot avoid them. but maybe you may use descriptive translation, and then it will be wonderful. So we have some time, and I would like to deviate from this, but you should not provide all these suggestions and prompts. I believe that a lot will be said when these translations become available to the audience. And we would like to see exemplary translations, and your role is really important in this, to identify those best translations. And in each project, there are some time frames, some criteria, some planning. As I understand, there is not much time for this, and this poetry is connected with the time. At the same time, it goes to eternity, and we'd like to have these wonderful results quicker. Vadim Castelli and Erasmus Center that announced this contest. Tell us more about organizational and technical conditions, how it will look, how you plan it, and what, how the results will be concluded and provided when we will see the results of the contest. Thank you, Valery. We plan and announced at our NGO Media Center Rozmai. On the Facebook page, you may find an announcement on this contest, and I would like to invite you to go to this page. There are no special additional conditions. We announced that we got these translations until 5th of February, so several days left, and we decided that we will extend this term, and we extended it to the 8th of February. Then we have a wonderful team, jury, judges, that will analyze these poems, and it is a pleasure for me to say that all three people who are on the stage, they are the members of this jury. Moreover, we have several people more. They are not present here today. Malkovich singer, renowned Ukrainian poet, and three journalists, Andrei Kulikov, Yuri Makarov, and Veronika Makovey. And they dealt a lot with the issues of art, and I believe that each of them will provide their own personal contribution, and they will announce this winner. And there are some complications. Things are not so simple. I cannot provide an answer to the question how we announce the winner. It is simple to say, but how to make it public? For us, it is difficult, because there are authors' rights, and in Ukraine, authors' rights were not adhered to. And in the world, this is not the case. And in order to make translations of some texts, of some poetry, you need to have the copyright, or to ask those who have this copyright. And by different channels, we are trying to get to those who are copyright holders. And we hope that this is the author and the company that represents her, maybe a publishing house. We try to do it by different ways, and Taras is helping us in this. He knows all young poets of America. We are trying now to speak with them and to ask them, maybe they know Amanda, and we ask them to call her and tell her about our contest. We do not have commercial interest. We do not want to earn from it. And people who send their poems, they thought these poems through. They should think, they should know that these poems could be made public. I hope that this will result in success, and we will get the consent of those who should provide this consent, and then we will think what to provide to the Virovka choir on declamation, or maybe we may make some publications. Taras, can we do this? How did you manage to get consent of the authors for your anthology? Copyright does not belong to all of them, so some copyright belongs to publishing houses, and some people do not want to cooperate, or some organizations do not want to cooperate, but we managed to do this, and we hope that everything will be okay with this case. I believe that we will join to the resolution of this issue. This is not easy. During my cadence as an ambassador, I would like to say that they strictly adhere to copyright. And we may count on the support of Ukrainian and American diplomats, and we helped projects like this. You may refer to the embassy in Washington and to embassy of US in Ukraine, and I believe this is one of the tasks of the diplomats, and this is a wonderful story, a wonderful project. And I believe that they will be able to help. As the head of the board of Ucmc, we will try to help as well. We will help to honor the winner. This is an important aspect. And there are some thoughts concerning this, but we will keep an intrigue. And now the process is ongoing, and for the jury it is a huge task. What I have read, those translations, each poem, they are original, they are unique. It is difficult to identify the winner, and why we have this event today, we want to have transparency, publicity, clarity in this. I participated in many juries. It's difficult to go along this way, to bring this decision, the result that would be perceived well by everyone. In any case, everyone who participates, as of today, we got 43 translations during 10 days. During first 2 days, we got 15 translations. And we thought that there will be an avalanche of translations. When you said until 5th or 8th, I thought time would lacking, but Ukrainians are so industrious. I would like to add one more thing. From the very start, we understand that we should provide incentives to people. We cannot say that we will print it, but we as NGO, we will allocate some money prizes to the winners. We as NGOs, we are not rich, but we say, for example, 5,000 of hryvnias. We allocate, and then we will speak. We will try to find more sponsors, and we will succeed in this. I have one idea. Should we stop this creative process? This is a wonderful game. Let people translate. Then maybe we will have one volume, second volume of translations. This is a wonderful response of society. It is really important what Taras said. This civil society lyrics, often it is of pathos, and it should be simpler. understandable for everyone. And at the same time, there should be the high of feelings of spirit. And I believe that this is a wonderful case. No one will stop creativity. And maybe there will be continuation of the story in America and in Ukraine. I see how it may happen in the future. But now the world is so dynamic, and we should follow the timeline because creativity is ongoing. New poems appear, and these scenarios of inauguration, of speeches, it is difficult to overcome these results of the year. And Mr. Castelli told us that you would accept translations until the 8th of February, and everything goes parallel, all the processes, and the Erasmus Center deals with these issues, and we will help you. In this Ukraine Crisis Media Center is your platform for communication, and each of us, we really thank you for your trust, for this invitation, and we will try to contribute to this process. So we are summing up. You heard about the contest, about the conditions, and we will double information on our site, and this will be shared, and in this way people get information about these dates, and then, well, when we have the results, you will tell us about it, and we will announce it in some time, in the not so far away future. So thank you very much for participation, for your presentation, and it is really interesting to speak about it, and I believe that those who participate in this contest, they are now enjoying themselves. I try to make some poetry. I know relations between US and Ukraine, but I cannot even imagine this winner who would unite so many traits in him: knowledge of the poetry, translation, directing, and at the same time understanding of international relationship. This will be really exciting results. I'm expecting it. Maybe I will break a scenario. We are going up to the final, but maybe I have 1 minute to speak. We asked the participants to answer some questions in order to better understand who they are, what they do. And one question is also about the motivation. Why have they decided to participate in the contest? And we asked this question on request Alexei Pavlovich, because this is the approach of the director, and there are interesting motivations, but we won't go into detail concerning this. They will have the opportunity to speak about motivation, about what was done, about the results. I believe that the next presentation about the results of the contest, there will be people, the heroes of this project, and we will see them, how they did it, and they will be able to tell us about their motivation. So today we thank you all for your attention. We thank the participants, and I would like to call on everyone, all those who watch us, our broadcasting from Ucmc Press Center. We thank you for this. Such events, they bring us out of the day, they show us the most important basic things, and they are inspiring for us, for Ukraine. I believe that the value of this project is that we Ukrainians, we should get united. We should have an internal feeling that would inspire us to achieve something great. Thank you very much for your attention.